go, Pops.
Thank you. I didn't expect to get a clap, but I appreciate that. Good evening, and let me just start by saying congratulations. Each and every athlete in here has done much more than accomplish something special in their sport. You've managed to navigate your mental health through avenues that many people aren't courageous enough to drive down. I was asked to discuss what sports have done for my life and how I've navigated through 38 years of reporting in the town I've lived in for the past 53 years. The forthcoming book I'm working on will better describe my life growing up in Southern Nevada, watching a town transition from the Running Rebels playing inside a spaceship-looking arena called the Rotunda at the Las Vegas Convention Center. My buddies Gabe and Gus Gledhill can attest to that. To a city that has won 3 professional championships since 2022 and will be the home to 4 major professional teams by 2028. Last time I stood on this stage, I talked about citizenship. I talked about the importance of being a student athlete, both on and off the playing surface, and being a good person, a teammate, a role model. And that means going above and beyond sharing your teammates' Instagram and TikTok posts. Tonight I want to talk about something far more important, something that's been the underlying theme as to why I was able to stroll through the red carpet and walk through those doors tonight. Mental health. And what I mean by that is I'm standing on this stage because I am a survivor of depression and suicidal thoughts. And it's funny because I left EOS thinking I'd release all this energy to get here, and I had an anxiety attack in my car and called my son, and he said, "Pops, tell them that you've had an anxiety attack. Remind them that this is ongoing and it's okay, because we all go through it." I heard a young man earlier say, I believe it was the baseball player, he said, being there when he was going through it. Now, I don't know how many people are in this theater, and I'm not sure how many are battling with something deep inside them, something maybe they're afraid to discuss, but I am betting there's at least one student athlete who looks forward to escaping to the field or the court or the course or the gym of their sport, disappearing into an alter ego that allows them a bit of relief from reality. Not that their sport isn't reality, but more so because the activity they engage in is where they dream of succeeding far beyond high school. I don't care if you play football, tackle or flag, basketball, golf, tennis, run cross country, or if you're the best flyer on the best cheer squad in the state. It's your escape, and I understand. The problem for many of us is the pressure that comes with who we are and having to abide by the rules and laws of society. Having to remember that as a sports reporter or a student athlete, we end up in the spotlight when we least expect it, even when we never asked to be. Everybody is watching, even when we're not looking. It's that large microscope that adds a feeling of pressure you never invited in the first place. Newsflash, this is today's society, and you can't let it get you down. If only those who carried expectations of all of you actually knew what you were going through. The toughest and most rugged to the softest and most sensitive athletes are all going through something. You can either learn to accept it or continue to deny it. And if I'm wrong and you're not suffering, then I apologize. You're doing great. But I'll stand firm that you're in the minority. The majority of us have something going on deep in our heads. And we should never lose that aspect of our lives because it defines who we are. It's how we build our character. It affects how we treat others and how we allow them to treat us. It's a big reason why kindness can take you a long way. Be it a simple smile to a stranger, encouragement to a teammate, or mere silence when lending an ear to listen to someone else, rather than scrolling through your phone. Every single one of you is needed by at least one other person. Every single day. You're needed, and you don't even know it. You're appreciated, and believe me, the one day you turn your back on kindness, you're turning your back on those who depend on your presence to warm their hearts and brighten their souls. For you teenagers who think you're the only ones whose good deeds may or may not be appreciated, get in line. Because I guarantee you at some point, someone else has felt unappreciated by you. Everyone is going through something, and everybody matters. And the sooner we all accept the fact that everybody who is going through something matters, the sooner we can understand more about the stigma and kick mental health in the rear. Since 1987, I've interviewed members of every UNLV Final Four team. I've spoken with the world's best basketball players from this era, including the late, great Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Stephen Curry. I've established friendships with future Hall of Famers like Marc-Andre Fleury and had deep conversations with the likes of Max Crosby. But as a reporter of 38 years, I've done some of my best work when reporting on high school athletes, win or lose. Like last August, when I was on my own mental health retreat in upstate Michigan in a small lake town of 1,200 people. But I found myself watching the Apex Predators with Jaylani Palmer and her teammates from Southern Nevada competing for the national championship in Canton, Ohio. They lost that day to the Staten Island Giants, but they came home winners because they fought to the end and represented our town. I made time to write about it and write about them because they were important. They mattered. I can tell you firsthand there is something magical that happens to the human spirit when I forget about everything around me from a professional standpoint and move the spotlight to people like you, student athletes, because sports, they're beautiful. I've said this often to many parents, please don't tag me or thank me in your social media posts. Not about your kids, tag them. You want to thank me privately, shake my hand one day, that's fine. But I don't write good stories because of my knack for storytelling. They're fantastic because they're stories about your student athlete. Good days and bad days are a way of life. It's a vicious circle we all endure, teenagers, young adults, and adults. I can tell you there are dozens of athletes from this very school who have turned a bad day around for me. Be it former football players, wrestlers, volleyball players, soccer players, even cheerleaders who made it to the national stage in Anaheim. That's how powerful sports can be, when we make them as powerful as we want them to be. I don't remember the first time that I started cutting myself with a razor blade, but I know I was in high school. I don't remember the first time I thought about committing suicide, but I do remember the last time, about 15 months ago. I also remember the first time I felt comfortable talking about these things. The Vegas Golden Knights clinched a berth in the 2018 Stanley Cup Final, and I felt my sports journalism career had finally taken a turn for the better. 3 years prior, I reached a point in my life where I began thinking about checking out from one of two places, Las Vegas or life. Soon after my son graduated from high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I felt I had done my part, raising him jointly with his mother in the best co-parenting partnership God could have blessed me with from the day we split during the week of his first birthday. I failed at the most important relationship I had known to that point, so I vowed not to make sure that I wouldn't fail at the second. I wanted my son to have what I never had, a father who wanted to be involved in every aspect of his life, allowing him to participate in whatever sport it was he was interested in, supporting him every step of the way, and teaching him some of the most important values I tried to live by. But once he turned 18, he pursued his own dream. I was left scrambling to regather mine. A dream that started when I was 6 years old, creating my own sports pages out of copier paper like this. A dream that found me with a tape recorder during Monday Night Football in the late 70s, pretending I was the color commentator. Did I know that I wanted to be a sports journalist? I don't think I understood what it necessarily meant, but I did understand that in being deprived of participating in sports, my only means of being a part of it was to watch them and learn everything I could about them. Don't get me wrong, I got to play Pop Warner football twice. Then I was told to be appreciative of those 2 seasons because some kids have nothing. Raised by a single mom, she was nurturing and always had a hot meal on the stove, but she just didn't understand what it meant to raise a man. And as much as I engaged myself in sports as a youth, as a teenager, even out of high school, I was always reminded, William, you can't revolve your life around sports. Apparently I had other plans. Back to being a single father, I reached a crossroads when my son's mother and I split, and I chose to abandon a career as a sports journalist to be the best single father. I stayed relevant by accepting random freelance assignments over the years, but I was too entrenched with being a father to work a full-time reporting job that would keep me from my son's sports activities. But when my son got his driver's license in 2012, I reached out to a longtime friend and was introduced to a local news editor with the Associated Press. I auditioned at a UNLV football game and was added to the local roster. Eventually, I moved up the ranks. I was routinely assigned to events covering everything that came to Las Vegas. Nevertheless, I still found myself scratching and clawing my way back into an industry that was filled with a new brand of journalism, one littered with a different wave of ethical traits and personalities. I was determined to resurrect a career that began in 1987 with the state's only black newspaper. But as the assignments increased, the job offers never came. I didn't even get an email or phone call returned from people I knew personally after applying for jobs they told me to. It was the equivalent of getting a text reply that simply reads, "Okay." My ego was shot. My mental game took more hits than Coach Foster's football program might dole out during an impressive state championship run. I was 45 years old and my thoughts drifted into an abyss. I also knew that with the suicide clause in my life insurance policy, my son would be financially secure before the ink dried on my death certificate, and he could pursue his own dreams. I didn't have a bottle of pills waiting on the bedside table or a bullet in the chamber of my gun with my name on it, but the mental anguish kept my brain stirring with these revolting thoughts. Then one conversation changed my perception of things. I was told the NHL was coming to town long before an official announcement was made, and it would lead to Las Vegas becoming a hotbed for professional sports. The person I spoke with implored me not to do anything drastic. In his mind, drastic meant leaving town. In my mind, it meant leaving, permanent. The journey I struggled with suddenly changed directions, and I held out hope. Since the Golden Knights arrived, I am thankful every time I make that walk from the parking garage to the press row inside T-Mobile Arena. And not just because I've covered one of the most historic expansion teams in professional sports history, but because my life feels worthwhile again. When they prepared for their first trip to the Stanley Cup Final, I began talking about my battles with mental health and suicidal thoughts. My therapist calls them intrusive. I call them overwhelming. And yet, as I stand before you here tonight, I've covered 2 Stanley Cup Finals, 2 WNBA championships, have covered numerous Monday Night Football games, some 45 years after recording myself covering Monday Night Football. What I've come to learn is that mental health isn't a game you win or lose. It's a journey. There are highs and lows, pain to endure, stirring thoughts, and desperate times of loneliness that, when all combined, will lead you to feelings of worthlessness. When they say you never know what someone is going through and you should never judge, I'd say it's time for everyone in society, including this room, to appreciate and understand everyone's battles a little bit more. When you're an athlete or a coach or a sports administrator or a sports journalist, none of us are invincible. By having conversations far beyond the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, it normalizes everyone and humanizes us to an extent that we all come to grips with our daily struggles and an understanding that it's okay to not be okay. I used to worry about discussing mental health, depression, or suicide awareness. Now I champion the conversations. I know the importance of not only discussing these topics, but normalizing them. Whether I'm on ESPN radio, a guest on TV, talking to sports leadership class at Liberty High School, or delivering this speech to the best damn high school sports awards ceremony in Southern Nevada, the shout-out. What I do worry about are the staggering statistics that come with mental health and suicide. In 2023, 12.8 million people seriously thought about suicide, and 3.7 million made a plan for suicide. I was one of them. I was not one of the 1.5 million who attempted suicide, but 49,000 people died by suicide in 2023. That's one death every 11 minutes. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Even further, males make up 50% of the population, but nearly 80% of suicides. It's time we not only tell our sons to toughen up and suck it up, but encourage them to talk. I also worry that a recent report revealed 70% of youth athletes are quitting sports by the age of 13 due to factors like overtraining, excessive pressure, and diminished enjoyment. The relentless pursuit of excellence, coupled with societal and parental expectations, has led to increased reports of anxiety, depression, and physical exhaustion among youth athletes at age 13. Sports isn't supposed to do this. It's supposed to be that escape that I spoke of. It's supposed to be fun, isn't it? How many times have we heard someone say, get back to playing the sport you learned to love by just having fun? I'm never going to tell anyone they shouldn't have certain thoughts and shouldn't think the way they do. Because I, for one, know what it's like to be blindsided by depressive days. They come naturally and you don't avoid them. You learn to control them once they hit. Mental health can be dark and friendless, as are the thoughts that come with it. And this is why it's important to talk, and talk some more. Remember, athletes, your mental health isn't a game you win or lose. It's a journey. Thank you. Good night.